Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. This filter I built a very long time ago. I know I always throw out the number of 20, but to tell you the truth, I'm not entirely sure. This client I've had somewhere between 20 and 25 years now, and in the interim, somewhere about 15 to 20 years ago, they sold off the business to one of those corporate entities. And every time that sort of thing happens, you end up with a succession of managers, and the tank's been moved around a fair amount as they all try to, put their own little stamp on things. And somewhere in there, somewhere between 15 and 20 years ago, I took the original filter and ended up building this one. Because the original filter, I'm not entirely sure now, but I think it was actually glass. Because one of the original trays, which is this one here, is glass. I used to make them out of that and then silicone things together. And this, by the way, is the original sponge, and I won't be restoring that, even though it probably still works fine. This tray here is definitely 25 years old, and I used to glue them together just like an aquarium, and then I would take the egg crate and then I would silicone that to the inside. And after I clean this out, you'll see there's actually a nylon screening, and that's also silicone on the inside. The downside of glass, of course, is it does shell like this every now and then, but 25 years old, it's fine. Now, somewhere between, like I said, 15 and 20 years ago, I built the new filter, and at that time I replaced one of the trays because I assume it broke. And that's the new acrylic one. And actually, that style of tray I still do today. There's no real change in it. But anyway, that's this filter is going to get cleaned up. Now, part of the reason for doing this is I got a question from a subscriber, or a viewer anyway, and they asked me because they were interested in building a filter for like a sump, and they wanted to know how badly acrylic will yellow. So I think this is a perfect example. I don't think you're going to get a filter older than this. So I'm going to clean this all up, and part of the purpose of that is to see if the acrylic itself has yellowed over time. Now, one of the things I do know about acrylic is you can actually polish it if you have the time and the patience to almost new, no matter how old it is. So that's also going to happen near the end of this. But first I have to get all the old crud out. This has sat around in my shop long enough for everything to dry out, and I just have to get it all out. The most useful tool I think I've ever had in my aquarium maintaining years is a shop vac, a good wet dry vac. They come in so handy. It's indispensable. Now, the other thing I want to compare here is recently I had done some lids for aquariums, and I had bought out of I think it was Home Depot polycarbonate sheets. They're designed not for obviously for what I'm using it for, but they have a corrugation to them, and I built some lids. And I want to stress that there is a difference between generic polycarbonate and acrylic. Acrylic is a much better material. This is extruded acrylic, and you can also improve upon that by getting cast acrylic, but the cost is quite a bit different. So what I'm going to do here, I've vacuumed it all out, and now I'm just going to take a standard cleaning cloth. These things, pot scrubbers, I buy them at the dollar store, and they're very good for pretty much everything. Now, obviously, this may scratch the acrylic a little bit, but as I said, this is the filter, and it's old, and I am going to polish part of it. There's no way I'm going to polish the whole thing because I don't have that level of patience. It takes an awful lot of time to get into all the little nooks and crannies. I'm just going to pick one side, and I'm going to bring it up to as new a finish as I can get, just to show you that it can be done. So this is going to take a while, and I was finding it a little annoying trying to keep me out of the picture as I'm doing this. So I am only going to show bits and pieces of this because I need to actually get in there and rub this down a bit better. And like I said, reaching all that way over, it got rather annoying quite fast. So we're going to switch over here to after I had scrubbed this out. And what I'm going to use next is shop towels. Those blue things you can buy at any of the large bulk places. I find they're really quite useful. And they don't really leave any real lint behind. And they're very good for this sort of thing. And also for, cleaning glass. I think you've seen me use them a number of times in a few builds. And yeah, they're kind of not indispensable or anything, because I actually have used real terry towels before, and they work just as fine too. Though sometimes as they get older, especially after you've washed them a few times, they can start leaving lint behind and whatnot. So this is just going to be a quick wipe down. And one thing that's going to happen here in a few minutes as I'm wiping this down, you're going to see me jerk my hand back. And like I said, I built this a long time ago, and I wasn't really paying attention to like sanding off any of the edges. And one of the rungs you see where the trays fit in, it's still brand new. It has a nice sharp razor edge to it. And the funny thing about acrylic and glass, I mean, I've worked with both for years and years, and the number of times I've cut my finger on glass is just like minimal, like maybe a handful of times maximum, pardon the pun. But I cut myself on acrylic all the time because maybe I just don't have, oh, there you go, that's it. Maybe I just don't respect it as much, even though I have, like I said, I've lost count of the number of times I've nicked a finger on that sort of thing. That's no big deal, of course. It's not like you're going to slice a finger off on this, but it is kind of like a paper cut, and it can get really kind of annoying. So this is getting close to the end of what I would normally do. I mean, I'm not, if I were, like, obviously this is not a filter I would use for a client ever again because it is just too old, and I wouldn't find it reliable as far as its ability to hold water. The nice thing about trickle filters is they only hold at most a few inches of water at the bottom. But again, it's not something I would take a chance on. But I may end up using this in the shop. Otherwise, it's probably just going to get scrapped, or I'll probably donate it to the local fish club. As you can see, it does clean up quite well. And the scratches that you see there can be buffed out. I am going to do that in a little bit here. It's obviously something that's not necessary. It's a filter. But, like I said, depending upon your desire to make it look pristine again, it definitely can be done. But this is perfect because if I were going to use this, like I said, in the shop here, I would build some new trays for it and just put a pump in it, and it's pretty much ready to go. Now, to polish it, I'm going to use the same thing I did when I was polishing aluminum. It is exactly the same stuff. And I've never really shown polishing acrylic before. And actually in this video, now that I think about it, I actually didn't. I'm not going to show it to you here either. It's just a matter of rubbing it. And I use Novus, and I use the 3 and the 2. The 3 is for heavy scratches, and there it is there. And then that's pretty much as far as I go. It does go down to a buff level, a 1, but I'm not going to do that. So this is after I've rubbed in the 3. And you can see there's a bit of residue there because you can't really quite get it all off. You have to do a fairly good job of doing that. But it also will fog the acrylic a bit because it is a much coarser grit than the fine one. But here it is after the fine. It does shine up quite nicely. It's obviously got 1 or 2 scratches. I think those are actually on the outside that I didn't bother doing. But that's fine. I mean, this is only done just to bring it up to clear enough so you can see whether or not it has yellowed. And as I said, you can polish this to pretty much brand new. I mean, acrylic does hold up as far as its ability to maintain clarity over time. So I'm going to switch over. What I'm going to do here, there's the old part. I'm going to switch over to, I have some white bins I use for sorting shrimp and stuff like that, and fry. And I'm going to put that underneath it. And we're going to see if, well, you use your eyes and you can tell me if you think that's yellowed at all. And then the last clip is going to be a brand new piece of acrylic I'm going to set beside this here, and you'll have a direct comparison between the two. So there you go, restoring an old filter. It's tedious. I mean, it didn't take that long. The polishing, if you really wanted to polish the whole thing, I think would take quite a while. But I'm not going to do that. I just have no need for it. So there you go. There was the two side by side. Brand new is the one I'm moving around, and obviously the filter is the stationary one. If you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe. And definitely let me know in the comments below what you think of this sort of thing, and your thoughts on it, of course. And I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.